Hey YouTube, this is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and I've got your rookie Superflex mock draft going on right now. And this is going to be something that I wanted to add to the Dynasty fans out there, so that way you guys are prepared. And of course, again, some insight of what I'm thinking about when I do a draft for those rookies. Right now, in this particular example, it's obviously PPR. It will be Superflex, so those are going to play some factors. In one of my dynasty leagues, and I'm just going to use this as an example, I am the third pick in this year's draft. So that will be something I'm thinking about. And then, of course, where you are in your dynasty. Are you a rebuild? Are you a win now? That will help kind of factor in some of this as well. And, of course, where your depth and where your needs are into your fantasy roster. So we're going to jump right into this draft. I want to make sure it's fairly quick. I don't want this a super long video. Obviously, I'm going to go into more details of the players that I pick and obviously kind of talk about some of the players that were drafted and kind of where you're seeing them fall in this mock draft. And that way, hopefully, it gives you some really good insight. So let's get this draft started. We'll get it going. And again, I'll give you some insight of what I'm seeing out there. So, of course, Breece Hall 101. That is an absolute pick. You know, one of the things I look at, and I like my roster as far as quarterbacks go. So for me, I'm looking at receivers and running backs to kind of fill in. And one of this league actually has 3 receivers. So receivers are actually one of those strong depths right now in this particular year. One of the other things is, of course, I see quarterbacks. I see like Pickett going early if you are in desperate need. But for me, I love Treylon Burks. I think he's going to be one of those guys that I think add value to my roster, especially for years to come. And again, all this mock draft is really determined based off of hopefully where these players are going to go, right? We don't know where they're falling in this mock draft. We don't know what teams they're going to play. And that does play a factor into this. And for me, I think that also is what makes it a little bit exciting. You see some good players going. I'm kind of surprised to see Isaiah Spiller this early. Just because I felt like he is starting to fall in a lot of drafts that I'm seeing, but I am kind of excited to see him go there. And looking at this, there's not a lot of great options as far as quarterbacks go. So again, being a super flex, that's not something I'm going to pick. But I do like Dotson here, another good receiver that I wanted to add. And sometimes I also think about future. I think about maybe some of these players that somebody wanted. Like I really was hoping Olave was going to fall to me. Fortunately, he did not. So that kind of hurt me a little bit because I was hoping he'd fall because he's been able to fall into the early second round because I've used him as trade bait in a couple of my leagues. So I just wanted to, talk about that. And for me, I'm actually going to look at running backs. I love Zamir White. The fact that I can get him in the 3rd round, that is somebody. And you can also get Pierre Strong. Pierre Strong is another good one I love a lot of. But I like Zamir White as far as a good 3rd round. And for me, again, I think about depth. I think about what these players can provide. And that's something that I look at when I do these drafts. Now, I don't have a 4th round. This one just kind of happens to have a 4th round because I was kind of curious where you're starting to see some of these. So in my league, I don't have a 4th round. Most leagues I've seen are usually just a 3-round supplemental. So each year. So it's kind of fun to kind of see where some of these 4th rounds, a lot of it has been tight end strong. I've seen a few quarterbacks fall in there. Seeing Alec Pierce is kind of a surprise at this late because I've seen him really being drafted in the, I would say, late 2nd, middle of the 3rd is kind of where I'm seeing Alec Pierce. I like him a lot. He's as far as one of those, I would say, steals, right? Those are one of those players that I think can really provide some good depth. And again, depending on where these guys fall, right? I think that's where I think a lot of people have had some issues with is where are these guys going to fall to help really give you that depth in your roster. So let's talk about those 3 draft picks that I did and kind of go into depth of why I chose those particular players to really kind of understand why at the 3rd position, what that value added to my roster. Again, I'm kind of in that weird spot. I'm in a win now situation, but I'm also thinking about the future and how I'm going to be able to keep a dominant team in my dynasty league. So again, my 1st round, pick in the 3rd was Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks right now obviously is expected to be a 1st round pick. he's expected anywhere from the Saints down to Green Bay. I've seen him, mock drafts having him in the Steelers. Again, Green Bay. I've seen the Saints. So no matter where he goes, he is probably going to be the wide receiver 2 on most teams. Now, if he goes to Green Bay, that might be a little bit different just because they are struggling at the wide receiver position with Devontae Adams being traded. But Treylon Burks, yes, his speed did not look great at a 4.55, but don't let that scare you. Who outran a lot of, particular defensive players. He had that down speed. It took a little bit of, not that instant burst, but he got you down the field, and he is one of those guys who's going to go up and get the ball. He's going to be a red zone threat on any team. He is somebody that I absolutely love. He'll get those yards after the catch. He's a big-bodied guy, so I love the fact that I can get him at the 3rd. He's been falling down, like I said, anywhere from the Saints to the Packers, so remember that. Okay, think about the teams that he's probably going to end up falling on, which is why I think he's going to be a great addition to my roster. Now, my other receiver that I chose, Dotson, is going to be another good receiver. Now, think, if you look at player profilers, they've got him at the Tyler Lockett comparison. I love the speed that he came out with. One of those things that I thought was great about him, he ran a 4.43, which was amazing. He's a little bit on the shorter side. Again, he's very Tyler Lockett-esque, and when it comes to that, he's been falling in the first round as far as about Green Bay or so. Green Bay is probably one of those that obviously are going to go after a receiver for this upcoming season. Man, I can only imagine having Dotson, who is a quick runner, who can obviously run precise routes with him and Aaron Rodgers. I think that's going to be amazing. And to get him in the 2nd round, again, building a solid future. Now, we don't know how long, obviously, Aaron Rodgers is going to play for. He obviously agreed to come back a couple more years. And that, for me, is enough where I think if obviously Jordan Love or whoever eventually takes over Aaron Rodgers' position will still have a good Dotson at the outside. And who knows, Green Bay might go after a couple more, but I like Dotson in that 2nd round. Now, my 3rd round, obviously I went to, running back Zamir White. A couple scares that I know a lot of people have with him. He did have 2, tears. He had an ACL injury, obviously 2017, 2018, and both, obviously opposite knees. That does affect him a little bit. His player profile comparison has him Damian Williams. I think he's more, I've seen comparisons to, like a Marion Barber, who obviously as a Cowboy fan, absolutely loved Marion Barber when he was on the team. He's one of those guys who is not afraid of contact. He ran a 4.4, which was amazing. And I think that's going to be another addition for him. Most teams, I think he's going to fall down. I've seen the Philadelphia Eagles, which I thought was kind of interesting with him and Miles Sanders and obviously Boston Scott. He's going to fall obviously into that running back by committee, and I understand that, but I think he is going to be a goal line presence and on any team that he's going to end up on. Again, the 3rd round, that's a value pick for me. I'm not too worried about him in my 3rd round pick. Again, he's a running back that I can have. He's 6 foot. He's 214 pounds. He is a beast. He's going to hit you square on. And again, I love the, tenacity that he's got. And I'm not too worried about his knees. Obviously, that's always something you always want to be concerned with. But for me, that is not something I'm going to be overly concerned with. All right. So that's kind of, again, a quick little mock draft of rookies going into this, season. A lot of people are either drafting now. Maybe you guys are doing a startup and you're already drafting your running backs, or you're waiting to see what's going to happen with the NFL draft. Hopefully these videos like this are going to help you kind of get some insight and kind of see where these guys are falling. That way you guys are kind of preparing. Don't be afraid to do your own mock drafts. A lot of times I do mine on Sleeper. Sleeper's a great one. I'll link Sleeper down below. And of course, Player Profilers, who is a great addition for fantasy. Make sure you click on them as well. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also, don't forget that notification bell. That way you guys are notified every time we drop videos. We are going to be providing a bunch of Dynasty content right now because, again, redraft leagues aren't ready yet. They're not ready. We will be obviously talking more and more about the rookies. And stay tuned. We'll have some more buy-sell players that I think will be helping you guys out. If you guys have not already, make sure you check out our other videos. Hit that like button, and I'll check you guys next time.